Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this Manifesting Lab webinar, voted for by you, the member, on the rather bizarre, or perhaps mysterious, or even intriguing title of Develop Your Superpowers. In fact, you may even think, depending upon your current belief system, that this might be a bit of a joke, and I'm going to then suddenly announce it's all a joke and I'm not really that serious. No, I am absolutely serious. Once you start down this road, things that you thought were impossible will become possible. No joke. This is the real deal. I'm showing you this stuff. It has taken me a lot of years of piecing this information together from different sources and merging them together and turning them into a systematic approach. It's very much the way that I've approached deliberate manifesting, and you'll see overlaps between this topic and deliberate manifesting, because hopefully, having joined the Manifesting Lab and been a member for a little while at least, you'll see that there is this huge topic of manifesting, and hopefully you'll see it has been stripped down to the bare bones. It has been made fairly straightforward and presented to you in a way that is simple to understand. So this topic of developing your superpowers, the same philosophy has been applied to this. You will find masses of misinformation, huge amount of confusion about this sort of topic. And hopefully by the end of this webinar, you'll be really clear on how to proceed with this, how to develop your superpowers. So what will you learn in this webinar that's a bit unusual? Well, first of all, and it's kind of obvious, you're going to learn how to develop your superpowers. As I said, this will hopefully be a fairly straightforward, systematic, no-nonsense approach, the same kind of approach we use for deliberate manifesting. And funnily enough, this webinar does actually follow on in some respects from the last webinar, which was on focus blocks. It was a webinar called Supercharged Alignments. Because as you will see as we go through this subject, the ability to clear up bad feelings and just bad life situations, no matter how bad it gets, is going to become quite important with this kind of subject. Because if you thought that deliberate manifesting flowed energy fast and caused you to fall out of alignment, this topic takes it to a whole new level. So you'll see. You'll see. It's probably not for the faint-hearted, but the rewards are big if you're willing to take that journey. So the first thing you will learn then is how to develop your superpowers. The next thing you'll learn is that plugging yourself into electrical circuits is generally not a good idea. But for some strange reason, people still do it. And you're going to learn what happens if you do that. And you're going to learn what I mean by electrical circuits. So let's get started. And here is the Develop Your Superpowers webinar map. And hopefully most of you, or nearly all of you by now, should know that we go around the slides in this kind of order, and we go around within the slides in this kind of order, and within the slides there may be more slides. You never know what's coming. But the first thing we're going to do in a topic as complex as this one, and it is a complex topic which hopefully will be super simplified for you, is we need to cover some basic understandings. And perhaps the first basic understanding we need to cover is what actually are superpowers. Because it's kind of a strange thing. It's almost like you're expecting powers from some superhero movie. So tell me, if you could, type it into the chat box, what you think I mean by superpowers. And I know that's an unfair question. What do I mean by it? But I'm interested to know what you think it means. So give me some examples of superpowers you think can be developed, because this webinar is about developing them. Have a go. All right, and I'll just list them out as you are entering them. You are allowed to mention more than one at a time. So we got someone mentioning intuition. Anyone else? Okay, we got a few things coming in. Levitation. Moving objects with your mind. Yes, that's that usually goes by the name of telekinesis. Or if you want to be, that's TK, they call it. Or if you want to be slightly even more specialized, you can have psychokinesis, PK. Yeah. Physical strength. Yes, absolutely. Yes. So super strength. Let's say the super strength. What else have we got here? Telepathy. Yes, of course. Must have telepathy. And what else we got? Invisibility. Yes. Oh, definitely that. Yeah. Invisibility. Flying. Okay, I would say that falls into the levitation category. Walking through walls. Okay. So kind of, I'm tempted to say shape-shifting, perhaps, but in that you can change your molecular structure. So let's walk walls. Yeah, all valid. Yes. So walk through walls. Anything else? Oh, out-of-body projections. Yes. So often called astral projection. When you're on projecting to a different plane, or perhaps even bilocation, which is on physical planes. Yeah, that's so bilocation, in case no one's knows what that is. It's you're in one place and you appear in another place, and you're there almost as a real person. What else have we got? Building things like the pyramids or Mayan ruins that are enduring through earthquakes. So building the pyramids. I'm going to put the pyramids. I don't know how the Mayan ruins were created, but the pyramids themselves were levitated. Those pyramid stones, sound levitation was used. So this was a specialized form of levitation. If anyone truly believes that hundreds of thousands of slaves just carried rocks that weighed massive amounts backwards and forwards for years, carry on believing that. I'm not here to upset your belief system, but the evidence is not with you, because literally they would have to be traveling at immense speeds with huge rocks to do that. So I would suggest to you that was done actually through sound levitation. So what have we got? Staying young. Oh yes, of course. Age reversal, all that kind of stuff. So age, which can be staying young or even reversing age. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Communicating with animals. So animal communication. In some respects, that's, I guess, telepathy as well. So there's overlaps there. So you can kind of know what the animal is thinking and feeling. So speaking languages you don't know. Yes. Okay. I'm trying to think how to classify that one. I guess it's kind of like downloading skills. So for those of you who saw the movie The Matrix, there was a scene where one of the main nice people characters needed to fly this helicopter, and they didn't know how to fly it, so they just downloaded the whole skill, and then they could fly it and do stuff. So yep. In fact, someone's just said accessing information like the helicopter program from The Matrix. Yes, exactly that one. Anything else? Anything else? So I'm just thinking, I'll throw a few in here to spark things off, like weather control. That's an easy one. Yeah, and I'll just throw a few more. Come on, you can think of a few more, surely. Is that the limit of what you want to achieve with this? Surely more. Oh yeah, time. Oh, okay, wow, we got slowing down time. So time manipulation. Yeah, so time travel, time manipulation, slowing down time. Yeah. Healing. Yeah. So we're talking healing by touch. Well, you guys already in the manifesting lab have the superpower of healing both, well, not actually by touch. You actually do it. I think I've taught you by absent healing, but yes, you can do it by touch as well. There are those among you who've had some private tuition in touch healing from myself. Extracting potent energy from sources other than food. Yes. Oh, that's a good one. Good one. So just trying to think what I could sum that up as. Energy. I'm just going to call it like etheric energy. Well, I don't know if you get the idea. Influencing people's thoughts. Absolutely. So remote influence. Yeah, it's a huge one. And to go with that, no one's mentioned it yet, as far as I can see. Remote viewing. That's huge as well. So remote influence is you're influencing people's thoughts at a distance. Remote viewing is you are seeing what's going on at other locations. You're not projecting yourself there. You're just looking to see what's going on there. Any others? So I could throw in things like, let's call it combat skills. I mean, that's quite a handy one. So let's say someone's some trained martial artist, and if they came anywhere close to you, they would do their martial arts on you. Well, funnily enough, if they never get a chance to get close to you, they can't do anything. You can literally fry their minds if you want, And what use is all their martial arts if they can't even get close to you? So you can do all of that stuff as well. Oh yeah, good ones. Some good ones. Yeah, not getting injured. So not getting injured despite physical trauma. Yes. So protection from impact. That kind of stuff. Yes, protection from like bodily impacts and all that sort of stuff. Summoning spirits of the dead or of dead people for advice. Yes, absolutely. So non-physical communication. Absolutely. Yes. Non-physical communications. Any more? Creating objects from nothing. Yes, a good one. Excellent one. So that's just materialization, just directly into your materialization out of nowhere. Hacking with our minds. Are you talking about hacking electrical devices? Oh, okay. Now that's one I've not thought about before. So hacking electrical stuff with mind. And there's actually no reason that isn't possible. Hacking electrical devices. And in fact, as we go on in this webinar, you'll see why that's actually not only possible, and if you mean by hacking, you mean disrupt them, that's actually something that happens quite a lot. If you don't get this stuff under control, you will be disrupting all sorts of electrical devices. As you walk into shops, you'll be setting off the alarm systems and they won't know, and you won't have anything on you to set them off. But you know, the theft alarm systems will, you can absolutely play havoc with them. All right, so we've basically filled up the screen. There's many more we haven't mentioned, but this is a taste of what we mean by superpowers. Now, I'm just going to look quickly down the list. And the reason I'm looking down the list is I'm seeing whether any of those are unrealistic. Now, building a grand pyramid, perhaps levitating sound. Building one of those pyramids from Egypt in your back garden possibly might not be feasible. You might need a bigger area. Flying might be a bit tricky. Levitation, okay. Flying, gonna need some work on flying. I'm just looking at the rest. Yeah, I think the rest is pretty reasonable, actually. So, so right now, some of you with your belief systems are probably doing somersaults. You're still in this. You're still starting. You're either kind of, hey, this is really great, or you're kind of, this guy's lost his mind. But I haven't. This stuff is entirely reasonable. What you've been coming out with. The flying thing, that might be a little tricky, but perhaps walking through the walls, that might need a bit of work. And in fact, it's just easier to use a door, to be honest. The rest is quite doable. So I hope that's already sparked your interest in this webinar and these skills you can develop. I know this webinar is called Superpowers, but these are not superpowers. These are actually natural abilities we all have, which for various reasons we've either forgotten about or we've not been told about. But hopefully throughout this webinar today, by the end of this webinar, well, let me be clear, you won't be doing any of these by the end of this webinar unless you can already nearly do them. But you will be on your way to developing the abilities to do this sort of stuff. So I can't promise that you can do all of this in the next couple of hours, but you will certainly know how to develop the abilities to do this. The thing about all these superpowers, now, here's a common misconception. It's easy to think that because you can do one of these things, you can do all of them. Because there are a number of things on this page that I'm going to admit, yeah, I can do. But it doesn't mean that I'm good at all of them. You have to understand that we are all different. We have talents in different areas. And it's a rare person who's good at everything. As you discover your own talents and your own interests, you will probably specialize in some of those areas. And you'll become very good at that. But it doesn't mean that you're going to be good at everything. So it's a bit like going to, say, a college or university. You could, in theory, learn everything that's there, but there isn't the time, and you haven't got the interest, and you're not willing to put in the effort to become good at everything. So what tends to happen is you tend to get good at a few things, and maybe you're just okay at other things, and maybe you're just not very good at others. It really depends how much time and effort you're willing to put in. The more commitment you have to building up these abilities, the better you will be at more of them. In the same way that the more you study, the better you'll get at different subjects. It's all about how much are you willing to effort you're willing to put in. So we've got someone saying, this is how it is at all the superhero schools too. Yeah, funnily enough, I wasn't thinking about that, but yes, it is interesting, the rise of the superhero movie. I mean, we might as well talk about this now. Have you noticed how in the past decade or so, perhaps even in the past couple of decades, the superhero movie has gone from just being a minority interest to being some of the biggest movies of all time? So that is telling you something about something that's resonating with people. And it's interesting that I just said we're all different, and I wasn't thinking of superheroes, but that is embodied in superhero movies. You will get certain superheroes who can do certain things, but they can't do the other things. It is actually, in many respects, quite accurate in that sense. Probably not accurate in the sense that you wear your underwear on the outside of your costume and go with a big cape. Generally, that's not a good idea unless you really want to practice your self-defense. I wouldn't recommend that. But certainly the concept of having different skills and developing them, that's yes, I'd say that's pretty accurate. And in fact, at the end of this webinar, I'll show you a quote about those superhero movies, and it might interest you. But that's at the end. We've still got a little way to go. So the first point about all those superhero, or not superhero skills, those super power skills we were talking about, is that you will probably have a talent in an area that is not necessarily the same area as another person. But the other thing is this, and this is quite an important point, and you will have seen it before. The things that you can do, when you can do them reliably, they will not feel like a big deal to you. And it will be surprising to you that others make a fuss about it. And now notice how this is exactly the same as deliberate manifesting. To those who are looking on and seeing that you're getting stuff and you don't seem to be doing that much to get it, it's a huge deal. To you, who's manifesting that stuff, and I'm sure many of you will have experienced this for yourselves, it's like you'll barely notice that you've manifested that stuff. And the funny thing is, if you make it a big deal, it becomes harder to manifest that stuff. And it is exactly the same with these skills. When you first start to develop an ability that someone else might think is a superpower, or I should rather say something unusual, an ability that is not common, when you first do that and you get super excited about it, you're actually gearing yourself up for it not happening again anytime soon. But that is quite common, because if you've been trying to do this thing for a long time and suddenly you can do it, and then you get excited, yes, it's going to be a while till you can do it again, because that excitement now has put you out of vibrational range of doing it again. So the best attitude to have towards all of this stuff as you start to develop it is not to be that bothered by it. It's just stuff that you can do and you don't think twice about it. It just seems normal to you. And the more you have that kind of casual, relaxed attitude, the more you start to allow more and more stuff. So you're not even aware that you're doing things that other people think are impossible. And you don't even go around telling people. You just do them when you need to do them. So if you are able, for example, to, I don't know, levitate, or a good one is turning off the light switch without actually pressing the light switch. You know, if you are able to do that sort of thing and you go around telling everyone, oh, look what I can do, it's so great. Your expectation has to be extremely strong for that not to get in the way of you being able to do that stuff. Because there comes a point where you have so much faith in deliberate manifesting that even if you tell people you can do it, you can still do it. But that requires a lot of stability to do that. And initially, when you're learning this stuff, I wouldn't make a big deal about it. I would just casually observe, oh, I've done something interesting, and just move on with your life. I wouldn't make it a big deal, and I wouldn't go around telling people about it, and I wouldn't make YouTube videos showing yourself doing it. It's just asking for resistance to come up. So you'll find as we go on, there's a lot of commonalities between this subject and deliberate manifesting. Now, there is one other aspect to this. We've spoken about what are superpowers. And hopefully you've had a taste of the kind of stuff you can develop if you want. There is something to consider with this. We call these things superpowers because certainly at this time, it's not stuff that people generally do. That's why we call them superpowers. So back in the 1950s or so, somebody ran the 4-minute mile for the first time. And up to that point, it was considered impossible. But after that person did it, Roger Bannister, within, I think, months of him doing it, loads of other people now had the expectation that they could do it. And it became no big deal. And now running sub 4-minute miles is just no big deal at all. No one thinks twice. So these things that we're currently calling superpowers, you are going to be going against the flow to a large extent, the flow of what others believe. And you're going to also go against the flow of your own belief system because you don't see people around you doing it all the time. So because of that, you are going to need a stronger desire to overcome some of that resistance. You are going to need, I'd say, a good reason. So if you were to ask yourself, why do you want superpowers? Well, because it sounds cool. Yeah, okay, it sounds cool, but cool isn't really enough of a reason. To develop some of these abilities is going to take you an enormous level of commitment over a long period of time. That doesn't mean that in future, when our expectations change, when we start to see people levitating down the street, that we won't think twice about it and suddenly it's going to be much easier for everybody. But at this time, it's going to require commitment because you are going against the flow of expectation of the collective. So cool is not probably going to be good enough. That won't get you past the frustration of days, weeks, and months without obvious results. Now, the good news is that you will get results. If you are consistent, you will get results. It's not possible not to. It's like deliberate manifesting, which hopefully many of you have now realized. You put the work in, you get the results. Now, this is going to require more work than deliberate manifesting, and you will see shortly why. But you will see that anyone can develop these things we call superpowers. It's just about consistency of practice. And what's really interesting is consistency of practice beats natural talent every time. So if someone else has a natural talent for lifting objects off tables with their minds, but you are consistent in your practice, you'll be better than them at it. So there is this element of expectation. And certainly if you've got a belief system that thinks this webinar so far is just ridiculous, it can't possibly be serious, you're going to have to fight a little harder with those belief systems. Now, the good news is that you know how to change belief systems. You have systems like focus blocks and everything else in the manifesting lab, so you can soothe those down a little bit if they're getting in the way. The other good news is you're around people in the manifesting lab who are already lost their minds because they believe they can create their realities through focused thought, which is what we call manifesting. So you're already with crazy people. Now, this is just another layer of craziness on top of that. So if you were trying to teach this stuff to the general public, you would literally be kicked out of the building. But with you people, hopefully, who are already half crazy, you might be more receptive and you may get better results. But I do believe you are still going to need some good reasons to develop this stuff. And I've given you a spectacular reason, which is that anyone can do it. You do not need to have some special ability from birth. It's simply a case of putting in the time, putting in the effort, and you will get results. So having said all of that, there are some dangers with this stuff. And the first dangerous aspect of this is something you should already know about, because it's the same dangerous aspect of deliberate manifesting. Now, the energy pipe, hopefully all of you have seen this before. I'm not going to spend time talking about it. It was explained in some detail in a webinar called How to Live Forever. But the basic problem with the energy pipe is that as stuff flows faster and faster through that energy pipe, of which your body is the end of the pipe, the faster the flow, the more care you have to take in making sure you're not slowing down the flow. Because if you do slow down the flow, your physical body is going to take a beating. So things like strokes, things like heart attacks, these are absolutely symptomatic of fast-flowing energy, strongly resisted. And I've warned about fast-flowing energy in the Manifesting to Deadlines webinar, but that was in relation to manifesting. Now, in relation to this superpower training stuff, your energy flow is going to go up considerably. So if you thought that this was going to be a nice, casual, easy ride into developing this stuff, you may need to think again, because the energy flows you currently have are going to go up exponentially as you develop some of these abilities. So again, it's kind of convenient that this webinar comes after the focus blocks one, because when you're flowing energy really fast and you're resisting it even slightly, you are going to go crashing down that emotional scale. And you are going to need some heavy duty methods to pull yourself back up. So a little bit of a warning there. That's the first kind of aspect to be aware of when you develop this stuff. You're going to have to be on your game, seriously on your game. There is no messing about. The other aspect and it's kind of related to the fast flowing energy in a slight way, but it perhaps is a surprising aspect, is that I have to warn you about this. I have to warn you that electricity is dangerous. Now, I did say earlier at the start of this webinar that I think something along the lines that plugging yourself into electrical circuits is not a good idea, but people still do it. You have to be aware of the dangers of electricity as you develop this stuff. Because, and this may come as a surprise to you, many of these so-called superpowers are about generating powerful electrical fields using your own body, and then manipulating those electrical fields in various ways to achieve the things you want to achieve. Now, that might come as a surprise to you, because you might think electricity is that stuff that you plug your toaster into the wall socket, and electricity is the thing that powers the toaster. But electricity is so much more than that. Here's Abraham, and just a couple of quotes from Abraham on electricity, but hopefully it will give you a flavor of what I'm talking about. Abraham say, and these are direct quotes, I'm not paraphrasing, this is exactly what they said. There's not a human on the planet that understands electricity. Not really, but you sure are utilizing it. And here's another quote that they said. Electricity is a raw energy or vibration, and there's resistance upon it. Otherwise, you couldn't utilize this force of electricity in your physical realm. It would blow out all the wires. It would blow out all of the appliances in the same way that a lightning strike can blow out all of the appliances in your house. So look at what Abraham is saying there. They're basically telling you, you don't know what electricity is. And what I am telling you is that electricity that you generate within yourself is the key to all these superpowers. Electricity is the realm where superpowers exist. And if you think you understand how dangerous electricity is, think again. Because imagine this raw, unresisted electricity running through your body instead of running through wires. It will literally tear you apart and destroy you unless you can learn to control it. And I have met many people, physically met them, and I've known some online who have wrecked their lives, almost being unable to function in this physical reality just from not being able to handle this stuff. Now, they did not know that this was electricity flowing through them. This is me simplifying all these ideas for you and presenting them in a way you can understand. They did not know what they were doing, but they were sure wrecking their lives, wrecking their minds, wrecking their brains. You see, if you do not control this stuff that's flowing through you, you will start knocking out electrical devices very easily, like I said earlier. That's very common. That's the first indication that you've got this stuff it's running wild, that you are knocking stuff out all over the place. That's bad news. But the other thing is, and I've done this to others inadvertently, you start hurting other people because you're literally firing lightning bolts at people inadvertently. Now, I don't mean like in the movies where you can see this lightning bolt zooming from one person to another. It's all invisible, but you can knock people over with it. You can fry their brains with it. You can hurt them pretty bad, mentally, physically, emotionally, even when you don't want to. Now, there's times when you want to. If someone's coming at you and you want to defend yourself, yeah. But not when you're say talking to a family member and then you accidentally blast them and then they're suffering for days with a headache. They don't know where it came from. That sort of stuff, if you let this stuff get out of control, can happen. But now imagine that same energy that's hurting those people and you are holding on to it. It's within your own body, ready to be used. Imagine how that's going to destroy you. The people, I've, as I said, I've known people, and many people involved in these subjects, they literally fry their own minds, and they end up in a state. And I don't mean they're in some vegetative state. They're still walking around. They're still humans. They still seem perfectly normal, but after messing about with these subjects for a while, they find they just can't focus anymore on anything, that they're so in a different reality all the time that they almost have no use whatsoever in physical reality. They're just always somewhere else. They can't even focus their logical minds in any useful way. And I've also been through this myself. I've struggled with this. And over the years, I figured out a solution. And let me show you what that solution is. And when you see it, it'll make sense, because I've kind of been ranting and raving to you about this solution, perhaps not as explicitly as I'm going to do right now, but you will recognize it to some extent.